Hello. Okay. So, if you are here live, say hi in the chat. If you are not and you're on replay, you can still say hi in the chat. And let me know if you have any questions along the way through the chat. Even if I'm not able to pop over and look at it right away, I will check these before we end the live video today so that I can answer your questions while you're here with me. But again, if you're watching this on replay, you can always comment in the chat and I will still reply to you at a later date. So we're going to be making a bunny cake, and I'm going to move this camera here in a minute so you can see better. But I wanted to kind of go over what we're going to be doing. I've got a 6-inch round cake that I've already crumb coated. I'm going to ice this for the final coating. And then we're going to add 2 bunny ears that I've made out of fondant, and we're going to add a couple little cheeks with whiskers and a little pink nose, and then a few little feet sitting out. So to me, it is a super cute and yet easy cake to make. If it makes you nervous to think about it, then this is still something you could try. You could, instead of doing a smooth buttercream like I'm gonna do, maybe try to texture it a little bit so it looks kind of fluffy, and that way you don't have to worry about smoothing it out all the way. So I use, for those of you who have not watched my videos and don't know a lot about me, I use a crusting buttercream. So it's like an American buttercream. If you don't use that, you could still make this cake. It's not, you don't have to use this, but I wanted to let you know that ahead of time because the way that I smooth it out may be a little different if you're using a different style of icing. So let me adjust my camera down towards my cake. So I may have to cut my head off here a little bit. So we're gonna be mostly focusing on the cake today. So in some of the shots, you won't be able to see my head, but I'll still be able to see your comments. If you have any, please feel free to pop on and let me know. So I'm gonna angle this down if I can without, breaking my camera. There we go. Okay. So I just keep my icing in big tubs. I make large batches every week. So obviously this would be, I don't know, like a quadruple batch or something if you were making it in a regular mixer. I make mine in very large batches at a time, so please don't be astonished at how much icing is in this bucket. Okay, so the crumb coat, you can see the cake through it, and the crumb coat does literally what it says. It holds in the crumbs. It is fantastic, especially if you're doing a chocolate or red velvet cake, and it just kind of coats it and envelops the cake, keeps it, from, I guess, crumbs coming out or air bubbles or whatever. So I just like that it does this. And after I crumb coat it, I do pop it in the fridge for a few minutes, up to a couple hours if you need to, before I put the final coat on. So normally you would want to decorate this on a disposable board if you are giving it to someone, but since this is for my family, I just have it on a little acrylic decorating plate. Okay, so I have a small angled spatula. I normally go with a larger one, but for a 6-inch round, I prefer the smaller one. And you may decorate your cakes completely different, but I like to start with icing on the top. And at first, I'm just literally getting it on there. This is not going to be beautiful in the beginning. I'm just getting it on there. Okay, so to ice the sides of the cake, I'm going to start on my top half, and I'm going to I want to bring the icing on the back of the spatula towards where this edge is kind of hanging over the icing I just put on, because I want those to kind of touch and meet, and it helps the icing to stick. So if you're putting it here, so now the icing that was on the back of my spatula has touched this top edge, and it kind of holds it in place. So I'm gonna do the same thing all the way around. And if you want a different angle, like I know on a live video like this, it's hard for me to show you exactly the angle that I'm working with, but I've got several other videos where I'm icing cakes with buttercream, and that may be a little bit better angle for you. Okay. All right, now I've got the top all around. I'm gonna do the bottom. Almost done. And you could probably also use an 8-inch round cake for this. I just think it looks cute as a 6-inch round, but that's totally your call. Okay, So once you have all the icing on, I usually take my spatula and scrape the excess off the board. And then before I scrape it with actually a cake scraper to smooth out those bumps, I like to pull in this top portion that kind of created an edge on top. And that actually gives you a nice edge on your cake as well when you pull this in. So I like to do that. And because the crumb coat had been in the refrigerator, it's a little cool. It's a little chilled, the icing in the cake underneath, which I think also gives you a crisper edge. Okay, so to scrape it off, I'm gonna be using a plastic scraper today, and I'm just going to hold it. You hold one point down against the actual cake board and or plate. Touch the icing, not dig in, but touch it. And with your opposite hand, just rotate your turntable. And after that first scrape through, you'll see like areas that need more icing where you didn't have it completely full. And so you can grab some on the end of your scraper, or you can use a spatula, fill in those parts that look like they don't have a lot. And again, this is not attractive. This is not, you're gonna go back and scrape this and it's gonna fill it all in. And always make sure to scrape off your cake scraper as you do it. All right, so we're gonna continue to go around. Way. Okay, I think we're good. So we've got no major air bubbles or holes in our icing. We've got no major spatula lines. The fine lines that are still on here, we are going to smooth out shortly, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So then I'm going to do the same thing to the top. I'm going to pull in any little edges that are left. Making sure to scrape this off back onto my bucket of icing. Okay. And I always kind of stand back and eyeball it. I'm like, is there any big bumps or areas that are really like uneven? Okay, I think we're gonna be okay. So what I'm gonna do now is, if you're using a crusting buttercream, I feel weird, my head being cut off. If you're using a crusting buttercream, you can get a Viva paper towel, which I have here. And you have to get their signature cloth. You can't get something with a pattern. And it's really super smooth on one side. The other side's a little rougher, but the soft side is what you want to put against your cake. Now, some people, mine crusts really quickly. If yours doesn't, then wait 10 minutes to do this, or 15, whatever you need to let it crust over. But you're going to start with putting the soft side against your cake, and I've got my hand on the other side of the paper towel. I'm not pressing hard, but I am applying a little bit of pressure. I'm just going to move my hand rapidly up and down, and you can almost feel any like little fine lines in there behind your hand just disappear. And you do that all the way around the cake. It's amazing what this, it's almost like an eraser for those little fine lines. Okay, now you're gonna do the same thing to the top. So I'm gonna lay that soft side on the top, use my hand. And I like to use my hand because the heat from your hand will help to soften that icing a little bit and make it easier to smooth out. And a lot of times, especially if you're doing a larger cake or a square cake, I like to go back with a fondant smoother. Again, same thing, smooth side against the cake, and I can just do this. But I still like to do my hand first because the heat from my hand I feel like helps. But if you're doing a square cake or just a larger cake in general, this fondant smoother will give you a crisper edge. Or if you're worried about like fingerprints like coming through the paper towel or something like that, like where your fingers were, this will eliminate that. Just apply a little bit of pressure. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm gonna set this behind me, and I'm gonna show you how to cut out the ears and things from fondant. All right, get all these tools out of the way. And I like to make the ears and even the little pieces that are going to go on the face ahead of time. You don't have to. You don't have to make the face parts like the cheeks, the nose, the feet ahead of time, but you do have to make the ears ahead of time in order for them to dry properly. So let me get my fondant mat. I have this mat here. I love it. It is like a crafting mat. It's my favorite. Okay, so first let me show you what we're going to do before we actually do it. So I have several bunny cakes this week for Easter, so I've gone ahead and cut out several ones. So each cake is going to have 2 ears, obviously. They're going to sit like, they're going to sit like this on top of the cake. One's a little folded over. They each already have wires in these. And then their little noses and mouths I've got cut out. So cute. And then they each have a little foot. So they have like a large circle with 3 small circles that will be the toes. So you could technically, the cheeks, the nose, the little feet, do that in buttercream if you wanted to. I just go ahead and do it all in fondant since I'm already cutting out the ears, and it's done, and it's easy, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to show you how I made these pieces so you can try it at home. So we're going to start out with just a white fondant. And if you are cutting this for the ears, you need to either use a gum paste fondant mix, or mix in some gum paste to your fondant, or mix in some gum paste powder into your fondant, something to make it hold shape and dry faster. So this is just a traditional white fondant. I'm using the Celebakes brand. You can use Satin Ice. You can use, I don't know, 1,000 other brands, Wilton and all that. But either way, if you're just using a straight fondant, I would recommend sprinkling in a little bit of gum paste powder or kneading in some gum paste into it. Or even I think it's called Tylose powder that you can knead into it. I would recommend all of that because it's going to dry faster. It's going to set up harder. Okay, so I've just got a handful roughly of this. I'm going to grab a little bit of powdered sugar if I can find it. Okay, and you could use cornstarch too. It doesn't have to be powdered sugar. So I like those little sprinklers or little shakers. It makes my life a lot easier. So I'm going to roll this out. And for small pieces like this, I just use the small fondant roller. You can use the larger one if you want to. And I am just going to make this, I don't want it to be so thick that it takes forever to dry, but if you make it too thin, then it can be brittle and it can break when you go to pick it up. So I'm going to say this is good. Now, there are 2 ways to do the ears. You can use a cutter. If you have a cutter that looks like kind of an ear shape or something like that, you can do that. If not, then you can just use, I'm going to use an X-Acto knife to cut this out. You can just use a paring knife. It's totally fine. But either way, I hope you can see a little bit of what I'm doing. I'm going to, it's just like a rough ear shape. I mean, they're not too difficult of a shape to begin with, but you want to do a rough ear shape. And of course you need to. And while they're still soft like this, I mean, if you were to cut this out, gosh, that's really too big. You could always trim it down while it's still soft. Okay, so then take away the excess. And so then pick up whatever shape, the shape of the ear. I kind of like push on the edges just slightly because they'll get like little frayed pieces of fondant. And I like to bring those in before it dries and make sure it looks a little cleaner. And that's what I'm left with. It's still soft and pliable at this point. So let me do the other one, kind of fix it all around the edges. This one looks a little fat on one side, so I'm going to trim that. And obviously we want to make sure that they're the same height. Okay, now at this point, I do go ahead and fold down the top ear. The right side, I usually do, I think it's the right side, but whatever side you're gonna do, I just take the tip and just fold it like that. And I kind of fold it at an angle, like I was trying to think of the natural way that it would kind of flop over, like that. So those are the ears. So we're gonna put these to the side. Then the rest of this white, I'm going to cut out the 2 little cheeks and the pads of the feet. And actually you don't have to cut those out, you're just gonna roll the ball up. So for the cheeks, I would say you want like a gumball size, if you were like old school gumball machines. You're gonna roll it out into a ball like that. And then I'm gonna kind of flatten it. I still want it to be fairly thick, but I am flattening that. And then I like to use like this, the palm of your hand kind of scoops in the middle. I like to press it there and then push it down into that because I do want it to be a little domed, little fluffy. Okay, that's a good size. So let me go ahead and do the other one. And then I'm gonna show you how to put those little divots in it to where it looks like whiskers could come out of there. Again, another gumball size, something like that. Then I'm flattening it. And if you roll one out, you're like, oh, that's really too big. This one actually looks bigger than the other one. Just pinch some off, put it back in, reform it. At this point, there is always time to fix it. And so then I'm gonna, again, press that into my palm. Okay. So you wanna get some kind of tool. Now, if you don't have fondant tools, no stress. You can also use, I would say you could even use like a toothpick or something, but those might be too pointy. You want it to be a little duller than a toothpick. So like the two tools that I like to use, if you want it to be a little bigger of a, not a hole, but like a divot, this is a cake pop stick. This is just a little wooden skewer, but it's dull on the end. You can use this to pipe roses, to put little holes in it. But anything, and actually this is something you might have at home, the end of a paintbrush would be perfect. If it's a small paintbrush, the end of that. So let's use that. So you're gonna take your little cheek and you're not gonna push all the way through. You're just literally dabbing all of these little divots into it. Pores, I guess, is what it really is if it comes on their cheeks for their whiskers to grow out of. I don't know if you can see those little divots. Probably too much light. But anyway, you're putting little, almost like little punctures in it. Again, do the other one. I do it all over. Okay, so those are done. Those are the cheeks. They're gonna go on the little face. Now for the paws of the feet, or the pads of the feet. So the main part of the foot is gonna be similar to the cheeks in size. I might do it a little smaller. All right, so again, I'm gonna flatten that out. But at this point, I'm gonna leave that one just like that. It's just gonna stay flat. It's not gonna go in the palm of my hand. I don't need it to be domed. So you've got, do both feet here. Flatten that out. There we go. Now I'm gonna give each one 3 toes. So then you're gonna pull apart little tiny pieces to make the balls. And then you're gonna flatten those out as the toes. Again, I'm gonna do 3 per foot. Is that correct for a bunny? I have no idea if they have toes or how many toes they have. Okay. All right, almost done. Do another one. And then once we get these toes done, I'm gonna switch over to a pale pink, and we're gonna do the insides of the ears, and we're gonna do a pink nose. And then we will start attaching everything to the cake. So like I'm moving through this pretty quickly. Obviously, if I was making this cake for a customer and being picked up today, I would have done this yesterday, this fondant work yesterday, and just gotten the cake ready this morning, got it all iced. Okay, so there's that. So let me grab some pale pink. And you don't have to, I have some pre-made fondant, like colored fondants here that I keep on hand, like the primary colors, and then I go back and darken it or lighten it as needed. Totally your call. You can color your own fondant. You don't have to buy the pre-made stuff. It just makes my life easier because I do a lot of fondant work each week. All right, so let me scoot these guys over. I also like this mat because it doesn't stick. Now I do put a little bit of sugar down, but it really does a good job. Okay, so first let's go ahead and roll out the balls that are going to go on the pads of our feet. So you're going to want it to be a little bit smaller. You seem to be a bit out of focus. You're blurry. Ooh. Interesting. Okay. Is everybody, am I blurry to everybody? Let me see. I'm going to try to lessen the light. You will let me know if that helps. You'll probably be able to see more detail if I do that. So let me see that. See if that'll help. Is that helpful, or did that make it worse? Because my picture on this end looks clear, so I don't know what is happening. If there's like a delay, so let me know. But yes, it's better. Awesome. Okay. So I flattened out a piece of pink. It's going to be a little smaller than the pad, and I'm just going to lay it on there for now. In a minute, we're going to get some water and stick it on there. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing for the other foot. If you feel like it's a little sticky, you can always dip your hand into the cornstarch or powdered sugar to make it better. And then that foot, I'll make that a little bit bigger. And I'm just flattening these out with my thumb. You can roll this if you want to. I just feel like if I can do it with my hands, it just saves me the times of getting a tool out and doing all that. Okay. Now, same thing with the toes. You're going to make small little pieces and lay them on each toe, making sure that you can still see the white around it. Do it again. When you're doing like 15 of these in a week, this can get really dull. I usually listen to like an audiobook or something while I'm doing this. Okay. Some more. Oh, and another thing about the fondant, you could, if you didn't want to keep a lot of fondant on hand, then you could just you can buy it in like 2-pound or 1-pound containers. Just get what you need for that month. Like, so if it's around Christmas, you're going to need some red and you're going to need some green. If it's around Easter, you're going to need some pastels, and kind of plan that way instead of keeping all the colors all the time, especially if you're someone who mainly does most of your decorating and baking around the holidays. I do it all year long, so for me, it's easiest to have everything on hand. Okay, so there's that. And so now, to make these stick, and then I can show you the full piece, I have a little bit of water and a little paintbrush. And just so everybody knows, all the paintbrushes that I use are only for cakes. I don't use them for anything else. I buy them brand new, I clean them, and I use them only for cakes. So I'm just gonna put, and I'll say a little bit of water, just a quick brush of water on the back. You don't want this dripping with water, it'll become tacky and it'll never dry. But you just want that pink to sit on there. Do the same thing to the other one. And do a few toes. Same thing with the little toe. Those are hard to hold up. I'm afraid I'm going to drop one. Okay. And if you are into doing like the unicorn cakes and stuff, it's going to be very similar, like not the facial features, obviously, but the ears. So like the ears I would normally make for this bunny cake about 2 days in advance. Same thing with the unicorn horn. I would make that about 2 days in advance. Okay. Now let's roll out some of this pink to go inside these ears. And then we're going to put the wire in the ears that's really going to support it. So I'm going to move this some of the way because I need to roll this pink out. Get my fondant roller. And what I like to do is I just kind of eyeball, like you want it to be more narrow because you want to see some of the white around it. Make sure you roll out your fondant long enough for the ear. Okay, and actually I'm going to bring this ear close to it so it can kind of show me the height, so make sure I don't cut it way off. I'm going to go ahead and cut this bottom off so I have a flat space at the bottom. I'm going to go a little shorter than the ear and a little bit more narrow. Let me see if that works. Yeah, that's going to be good. So I would then get that same paintbrush and water and just paint a strip behind it. One little strip of water should be enough. If you feel like it's not, you can always add more, but I feel like less is more when it comes to the water. right. And you're left with your little bunny ear. So on the one that's already bent, you're gonna make it even shorter because right now it's still flexible that I can lift up this little flap, and I'm gonna tuck the pink underneath there. So I'm gonna use the cutout for my other one as kind of a guide as to the size to make this one. But like I said, I'm gonna kind of give it a blunt top instead of coming to a point because I'm gonna tuck that under. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm gonna bring that inside there. Move this around so it looks a little bit more centered. Okay, grab my water. All right, and there is the other ear. Okay, so we are completely done with the fondant now. I'm gonna put this away. We're gonna go back to the cake. Let me move this out of the way. So you have our cake over here. See, and every cake has a front and back. So even though it's the super simple one, I'm just gonna pick, I think that's the front. It may not even matter, but to me it matters. I'm gonna just drink coffee. Okay, so first we're gonna do the face. And what I'm gonna do so that you all can see exactly what I'm doing, oops, I'm actually going to move this table and stand on that side so you're kind of looking over my shoulder. I know it sounds silly, but I feel like there's no way for me to attach it in a way that I need to and show you all. So let me grab the pieces that are already dry and come around that side and see if this works for us. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, and I'll bring this back closer to you. I think you'll get a much better visual of what I'm doing. Okay, so what you want to do is start with the feet because then I'm just kind of moving up spatial wise. So like I've got my little feet here from the other day. Again, if you wanted to make these little feet out of buttercream, that's absolutely easy. You would just get like a large round tip, like a 10 or 12, and pipe the white on. Then you would get a paper towel if it's a crusty buttercream and kind of flatten it a little bit, and then pipe with pink a little bit smaller, circle on the inside. I mean, I've done it before. It's totally fine. Now, to attach these, I'm also going to use a little bit of water. So just a little bit on the back. And probably a little bit of pressure, but not a lot. Kind of hold them in place for a couple of seconds. Then you're going to go back with your toes. And I always do the one in the middle first. I don't know why. I feel like I have no spatial, whatever the word is. Everything's always off center. I always feel like I have to start in the middle and work my way around. Okay. Their little feet. And if you do end up with a lot of Easter orders and you're doing a lot of these, feel free to make all the fondant pieces one day, to bake all the cakes one day, to make all the icing one day, and kind of plan it out that way. All right, so you got your little feet on either side. Now we're gonna go with the face. So now last night when I made these, I actually added a little bit of water to make them stick, the nose and the little cheeks. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of water and apply that right here. You need room above them to put eyes. So we're gonna add a little water. And just press. And you want it to collapse against the cake, so you don't want it to remain super stiff. That's why I don't make the white pieces, the cheeks. That's why I don't make it one piece. I do two separate cheeks because I don't mind if there's a little separation here. I want it to sit flush against the cake. Okay, and the nose, oh, we didn't make the nose. I'll show you here in a minute. The nose is just like an upside down triangle. Super easy. If you need to make a nose, I apologize. I forgot they had a nose. Of course they have a nose. You're gonna get just a little bit, probably the same amount you used on the pad of that foot. I'm gonna roll it into a ball in my hand, make a triangle. But you want it to be like a blunt triangle. You don't want it to have like pointy sides. And then I kind of want to pull down on the corners to make it a little rounded on top. And then make sure it's, and then that becomes your bunny nose. The nose is super easy. Okay, so before we add the ears, we are gonna pipe on some whiskers and some eyes. And to do that, I'm just gonna use a black buttercream. So black icing, you could use royal icing for this. You could use any kind of icing that you're currently used to working with. I'm using a number 3 tip. I use that a lot when I'm doing any kind of eyelashes or whiskers, or all of the unicorn faces always have a number 3 tip for their eyes. Now let me see if I can squat down here to do this without being in your all's way. I'm gonna bring this closer. So first, let's start with a few whiskers. So I like to pipe one straight out, and then I do one at the bottom and one at the top. Now that's always the easy side for me. I gotta do this side and I can't because I'm right-handed. Okay, so pipe 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so there's your little whiskers, cutie patootie. And the eyes, you can kind of play around with the eyes. I do kind of a curved eye with lashes. If you don't want it to look that girly, you could just do like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like almost like a upside down C or a U, but like just kind of where its eyes are closed. But I think it looks cuter if you, on a bunny, if you start in the, and then go around, bring up an eyelash. So it's kind of like a curved, and then another. And I do the same similar thing on a unicorn. So here we go where I can't, it's so hard to match it on the other side. So go up, down. Close enough. And you don't have to say up, down like I do. It just helps me. Okay, so you have your cute little eyes. You have your little whiskers. You can add as many eyelashes as you want. Now, for the ears. So again, we're gonna go back to the ones that are already dried. Now, I've already got wires in these, and here in a second, I'll show you how I did that with the other ones. Okay, so you wanna center the ears over like the cheeks. So like roughly there is what I'm thinking. And I like to put them a little like splayed out. And you do want to push the bottom of the ear a little bit into your icing so it kind of stays. How cute is that? Okay. Now, if this was going out to a customer and it was going to be traveling in a car, I would suggest getting white buttercream and just piping with a round tip a couple of dots behind each ear. That's going to give you a little bit more support and stability. If it's going a really long way and you don't want to even risk that, you can get a sucker stick, melt some white chocolate, especially if it's the candy melts because they dry really fast, and attach a sucker stick along the back of this with those candy melts attached to it. Like you would lay the sucker stick on the back of the ear, pipe or scrape on a little bit of the white chocolate that's melted, and let it sit for about 10 minutes to dry all the way, and that becomes the back support. I mean, yeah, you're gonna see it on the back, but it will guarantee those ears don't move. I do that a lot for any kind of big toppers, especially since I'm driving with them to deliver them to customers or they're picking them up or whatever. Okay, so, but basically, this is your adorable stinking bunny. He's so cute. So this is perfect for Easter. You know, these are all the rage as far as the unicorns and the bunnies, and I've seen the, you know, the deers and the cats and just everything. At Christmas, I saw several like Rudolph type cakes like this. They're so cute. Oh, I've also done a fox. So these are really cute cakes. As long as you get your icing on the cake in an even manner, you can play around with the rest of it, like the ears and eyes, and make it your own. It doesn't have to be just like this, but this is what I do a lot of at Easter. Now I'm gonna put this back here and I wanna show you how I put the wires in those ears that we made earlier, because that is very important as your stability for the ears. So this is floral wire. And actually, I'm gonna put this bunny behind me. I'm afraid I'm gonna hit it. This is floral wire. It's thin gauge wire, it's green. If these didn't have pink on the front, I would say use silver, not green, because you're gonna be able to see it. But since we're gonna put it, you're not gonna be able to see it because the pink's covering it up. What you wanna do is through the white part, you wanna try to thread this. And this is not always easy. I kind of place my fingers on each side and feel where the wire is going through. It doesn't have to go all the way to the top, but you want it about 2/3 of the way. And once you've got it in there, then I take my wire cutters and I cut it a few inches down, because that's the part that's going to be in the cake. And so you can kind of see it on the very back, a little hint of it up here. That's okay, it's the back of the cake. And then the same thing with this one. And you can also put the wire in before you even add the pink. Like, you can do it as soon as you cut out the white part. You don't feel like you have to wait till the end like I did. Same thing, cut that out. And then let that sit for at least 24 hours before you try to attach those to anything. Okay. So, now that I've got my mess everywhere, what questions did that cake bring about? Any questions for you all? Do you have a specific question about this cake? I'm going to actually move this so you can actually see my face. Oh, hold on. My camera just moved. I'm not a videographer, can you tell? Okay. So, do you all have any questions about this cake, about cakes in general, icing, fondant, whatever? Let me know in the chat if you do. If you are new to decorating and you're trying to figure out cakes to bake, icing to make, there are so many different ones. Use this time when you're beginning, if you are a beginner, to perfect those recipes, to enjoy it. Play around in the kitchen, find your favorite cake flavors. This is actually a layer of chocolate and a layer of strawberry. I like it. It's like a Neapolitan because the white buttercream represents the vanilla. I love it. So make what you like and play around with recipes. Don't be frustrated if the first few cakes you make don't rise as well or don't taste as good as you want. That's okay. It's all trial and error. I will say that can be frustrating, but you can do it. I spent years playing around with different recipes, and the recipes that I use today are not the ones I started with 16 years ago, and that's okay. The icing is not the icing I started with 16 years ago. And you're always learning new things and new techniques, so don't feel defeated. I actually, after 16 years of decorating, have shrunk my cake business down a little bit. I'm back working from home, and I actually teach others to do what I do. So I'm currently working with 2 women, and I help, not working with them in person, but virtually, teaching, coaching 2 other women who are trying to start their own at-home small business in their kitchens. And we are working through all the kinks. We are working on decorating. We're working on baking. We're talking how to market your small business. So if anyone has any questions about any of that, pop that in the chat, or you can find more information on how to contact me on my main YouTube page. But you can comment on any of the videos and just say, hey, I have a question about your program. I can email you all the information, and we can set up a Zoom call to actually talk and make sure it works for you and would fulfill what you want it to do. But it is a one-on-one class, so it's not you and a bunch of people. It's just you and I. We talk daily. I send you videos daily, recipes, everything. And we just talk business. We do Zoom calls. We kind of do as much as we can virtually to get you on the right track. So you don't have to be local. You can be wherever you are. But let me know if you have any questions. I really do want to be able to help. Oh, it looks like I have a comment. Let's see. If it'll let me even see the comments, right? Oh, there we go. Oh, it's not going to let me see your comment. Why? Huh. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Oh, thank you, Dawn. Okay, so I'm going to check the chat after the video is over because for some reason I'm using my phone to video this. Maybe that's the problem. It's letting the comments come through and they disappear really quickly and it won't let me view the old ones. So I'll get on here. If you have a question, I will answer it. Remember, this is crusting buttercream, so that paper towel will only work with a crusting buttercream. It will not work with a softer icing. And then also, you have to have a support in anything that's 3D on a cake. Those are the 2 main points from this whole video. But play around with this. For those of you that are customers of mine, have ordered these cakes for the weekend, I'll see you on Saturday. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to go back to my older videos and see if there's anything that's helpful there. I even have a few videos where I talk more about the Cake in Real Life coaching program so you can actually see what I'm talking about in more detail. But remember, we can always set up a call and talk and see if this program would work for you. So thanks for watching. I hope everyone has a great Easter.